Okay, hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. So today I'm going to be doing a basic as shit video, but welcome to my channel. Hello. There's nothing new about that. But today we're going to be talking about my favorite palettes for fall. But truthfully, I really do love fall a lot, even though I try to fight against it, but I can't deny that I love all the aspects of fall, all the basicness that involves, but we're just self-accepting today and we're just rolling with it. And I have a pretty varied array of things to talk about, some that have been out for a long time, some that are of course limited edition, some that are more colorful, more neutral. We're covering all the topics, all the aspects of fall palettes, if you will, today. But basically, I just wanted to make this video because I love fall, as I've stated 25,000 times already. And I feel like let's all just go into our collections, let's look at the palettes that we already have, rather than, let's look inward rather than outward for this season, and I don't know, use the things that we have collectively, shall we? And there's truly, I love nothing more than talking about eyeshadow. So we have orange eyeshadow on, we're wearing a flannel, wearing a brown lip. Let's just dive right into it. So the first one that I want to talk about is basically to me, quintessential fall palette. It's just what you instinctively think of when you think of a fall palette. And I would also just like to say it's raining here and it's very dark and the lights above me have burnt out, and so my ring light's quite aggressive today, so the lighting's probably not the best, but hey, welcome to my channel. Nothing is new. But yeah, so as I was saying, first palette is one that to me the color scheme just screams fall palette. And it's the Dominique Cosmetics Berries and Cream palette. And when you look at this, truly, this is a fall palette. You have warm browns, you have burgundies, you have deeper wine colors, you know, all the colors that you think of when you think of a fall palette. But you also have some purples, there's a blue, you know, I feel like it's really versatile, but no matter what you do, it just gives fall vibes, you know? It just really is warm toned deliciousness. I really like Dominique Cosmetics formula. It's not my favorite, but it's quite good. I do enjoy it, and I think if you already have this palette, pull it out because it's going to suit your needs perfectly. And I also feel like this transitions into oh my god. And I also feel like this is a pretty good winter palette as well, if you care about seasonality with your makeup, which I generally don't, but sometimes it's nice to, you know, fit your makeup to the season. But yeah, because you have those some more cool toned purples, you have the blue, like I said, I feel like it's more versatile. You can get a lot of different looks out of this, some more neutral, some really warm and deep and smoky, and I think this is a really, really beautiful palette. I haven't played with it as much as the other palettes I'm going to talk about today, but I think it's a really good one, and also perfect for fall. The next palette is a limited edition palette, which is very sad, but again, sticking with the theme of the video, if you have it, I would encourage you to pull it out because I think it's a beautiful fall palette. And it's the ColourPop Good Sport palette. I've sung the praises of this palette so much here on my channel. I think it's such a good palette. If you don't already know, I am currently on a break from ColourPop. We're undecided how long term this break is going to be as of yet, but that being said, I really do love this palette. I think it's beautiful. Warm, mustardy tone browns, which is obviously very apropos for the season, but you have this really beautiful burgundy, you have some purples, and you also have some greens down here. Like every aspect of this color story is just like perfect for fall. I think it's so beautiful. I love this palette so much. Like honestly, I can't even begin to tell you the deep burning passion of love that I have for this palette. I think the formula is really, really beautiful. The mattes blend really well. The shimmers are really foiled and intense and sparkly. Again, it's limited edition, so you can't get it anymore, but if you have this palette, I would really encourage you to pull it out. I think you can get such a wide variety of looks from this. I think it's really, really nice. The next palette surprised even me when I was going through my palettes and thinking of the ones that I wanted to talk about in this video, but when I looked at it, I was like, truly fall vibes. And it's the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. I've talked about this before, and that it's not necessarily like my favorite formula ever. I think it's good. I enjoy using it. I don't necessarily know that I would even encourage you to run out and buy it. But again, if you have it in your collection, I would encourage you to pull it back out for this time of year and re-dabble in it, or even just shop your stash, if you will, for dupes of kind of like the vibe of this color story, because I think it's really nice. Again, you have warm browns, you have some brighter tones in this compared to the other two palettes. You have an orange, you have this like almost red shade here. You also have some purple, some really pretty duochromes. It's just really beautiful, and you can create so many really beautiful like warm toned looks that when I really like look at this palette, I can't deny that it gives me nothing but just like warm roasty tones, and I just think it's perfect for fall. And again, even just like looking at this palette and duping it with some of your singles that you have, just like the tone and color story of this, I think would make for a really good fall palette. This is just like honestly inspiring to me for this time of year, just looking at like the color choices. I think this is really good, and if you have it, pull it back out, because it is a bit of an older palette. It was released a while ago. The next one is another limited edition palette, but I do, if I'm being honest with myself in my heart of hearts, I think they're going to release this at least one more time. I'm not trying to give anyone false hope, but I think it's going to come back. So hold your breath. But it's the colored Raine Safari Rain palette. I did a first impressions video on this. It's so beautiful. It's like honestly my perfect palette, if I'm being honest. I don't know how much you're gonna see because I feel like the gold is just so reflective, but I love Colored Raine's formula. I think it's so beautiful. Every aspect of it I love. The mattes are so pigmented, so blendable. The metallics are so intensely bright and foiled, and just everything you could ever want in eyeshadow basically. But also this color story, tell me this is not the most fall color story you've ever seen. You have the top row of like warm browns and oranges. This mustard is perfect. There's not really browns, it's more like orangey mustard tones, which to me is even better. You have this row of greens. This like murky, almost yellow based green is a perfect fall shade, if I do say so myself. And then some more like smoky, like more neutral tones down here. But all in all, I think this is such a perfect palette for fall. I think it's so beautiful. Again, if you have it, pull it out, use it. And like I said, I honestly, conspiracy time Flora, really think that they're going to bring this out again. They also, I know, are selling this palette as singles on their website. So if you really, really love this color story but miss out on it, you can buy it in singles. So the next palette is a little bit of a different color story, but hear me out. We don't always have to go for warm browns, oranges, and burgundies. We can have different color schemes, but also remain within the fall vibes territory. And the next palette, I think it fits really well for this season, and it's the Juvia's Place Tribe palette. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a lime green palette. It has bright greens in it. You may be like, this is like a spring palette or a summer palette. It's not a fall palette. I would argue that it is very much a fall palette. Even though you do have some brighter greens, you do have some oranges. This Ashanti shade is one of my favorite shades in my collection. It's such a beautiful, like, pukey brown green. It's so perfect, and to me it's like quintessential. This color basically represents fall to me. And you do have some deeper greens over here, and you can incorporate the greens and the oranges together. You can go really bright, you can go more grungy, and I just think it really is a good fall palette. You have some like pumpkin-y shades. It's a good like transitioning from summer to fall. You can, I just think it's really, really nice. And this next palette may be a little bit more expected, but still good. It's basically a palette that I talk about in every single palette video. It's the Melt Gemini palette. The mustard tones, the green tones, you can't deny. You just want to use this when September and October come around. I don't really think I need to say more. I think it's perfect. You have beautiful mustard tones. This is almost like more of a copper, so it's a little bit more orangey toned. These like mossy, grungy greens. It's just like perfect fall palette. I mean, it's perfect all year round, but you can't deny that this color story basically epitomizes September and October. The next palette is probably one of the most neutral palettes that I have to talk about, and I don't know why. I wasn't even going to include this, but when I looked at it this morning when I was planning my palettes for this video, I was like, this should be in here. So if you're not really super into color, or even like you feel like oranges are just like a little too much for you, I would encourage you to check out the Kaleidos, what is this? Futurism 2 Cyber Bronze palette. Even though it's a neutral palette, I feel like you have some really beautiful warm toned browns. You have a more mustardy toned brown, more like reddish orangey brown. You have like this copper and this bright red. It's really a beautiful warm toned neutral palette that I think is really, really good for this time of year, and a little bit more neutral leaning than, you know, normal fall palettes. I feel like people talk about fall palettes and, like I have been talking about, instantly go to like burgundies and oranges, but I think these browns are warm toned enough that it's appropriate for fall. Not that anything isn't appropriate for fall, but you get what I'm saying, while still being more on the neutral side. So yeah, like I said, if you don't want to go like full orange pumpkin, but you still want to like have fall themed makeup, I think this is a really beautiful palette. And Kaleidos has one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas ever. They're so good. This next one is more of like a neutral palette with some pops of color that, again, I think is just perfect for this video theme, and it's the Juvia's Place Nubian 2 palette. Again, I basically talk about this in every like palette recommendation video I ever do because I just think it's so perfect. And this is, I mean, what season is more appropriate to use this palette in if not for fall? You have an orange, you have a burgundy, you have a beautiful mustardy toned brown, you have this beautiful like greeny gold, some like bronzes, coppers, you have this really deep like purple shade. It has basically every single aspect of like fall eyeshadow, fall makeup all in one palette. You don't have to have like one grungy green palette or one like orange burgundy palette. You have all the options right in this palette. It's a little bit more in the neutral tone side than like having like bright, again, oranges and whatever, but still so fall appropriate, so beautiful. I just feel like I don't need to like go on and on about this palette because I've talked about it so many times, but this is a really, really beautiful fall palette as well. And so if you're wanting something different rather than just like oranges, whatever, you know, like normal, typical like fall eyeshadow palette shades, and you want something more like along the Halloween spooky route that's still like within the season, I think the Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette is such a good palette for that. I mean, I think that was the point of this palette release, because it was like a more Halloween release as opposed to like fall, Thanksgiving, September. You know what I mean? Because while at first glance, I know it's not like super like fall colors, I think you can get really beautiful, deeper, grungier looks from this, even though it looks almost like spring colors. I know that was like a lot of people's critiques when this palette first came out. I think when you actually use this palette and get it on your eyes, you can get really like deep, grungy looks, like I said. I don't know, it's something different, but really it does feel like fall to me because it's a little bit deeper, it's a little bit smokier. Even though it doesn't look like it, I really feel like it translates differently on the eyes, especially this purple row. It's really, really nice. And if you have it, I know it is limited edition. I don't actually know if it's still available. I would encourage you to look it up and see if it is, because it's really, really, really nice. I think it's a really unique color scheme and something a little bit different for this time of year than what we usually see people using or coming out with. And then to completely 180 that and go back to very much expected tones. And this palette, I wouldn't necessarily encourage you to run out and buy for a myriad of reasons. But this could be possibly the most like fall palette that I have, and I just couldn't help but include it. And I feel like this is a palette that's probably like shoved in the back of a lot of people's drawers and that they've used like a couple times and never have used again. It's the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Vault Collection Ring the Alarm palette. Okay, like you can't deny there's nothing more fall. There's nothing more typically fall than this palette, okay? You have oranges, warm browns, you have this really beautiful, like bright, almost red shade, burgundies, if I didn't already say that. It's really good. It's just like a beautiful, warm toned palette. It's not like my favorite palette by any means, but if you're looking for a fall palette that you probably might already have, I'm just gonna leave this here. I'm just gonna remind you of it. Again, even just like duping the vibes of this palette will get you like the most fall palette of all time, you know? All right, well that was hopefully the shortish and sweet video. I feel like my mind was all over the place, but I think I got my points across, and just I'm glad you just sat down with me. We could talk about eyeshadow for a little bit. Please let me know your favorite fall eyeshadow palettes, because while I would encourage everyone, including myself, to look inward to their collection and pull out palettes that feel fall themed that they already have, I would also be interested in looking at new ones, okay? Just looking. I'm also sorry if there was a drill in the background the entire time. Apparently someone's drilling, and they have been all morning. So hopefully that's not so annoying that you can't make it through the end of this video. But yeah, I want to thank you for joining me again today, and hopefully I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. And all of these palettes are palettes that I've Obviously they're palettes that I own. And letting me know that I feel so dumb. And that is the Dominique Cosmetics. Wow, my ring light is so aggressive. What is that flashing light?